Fan Radio Podcasts, getting you inspired to be fruitful.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. Richard Mwebesa here to share with you some nice inspirational stories. Our topic is Catalysing Initiative as a Christian, presented by myself, Richard Mwebesa. I am an award-winning author of the books Out of the Crowd and Inspired by 40, and releasing one very powerful anthology of poems called Thistle of the Nile, which is going to be an illustrative anthology of poems coming up. I am an author, I'm a life coach, I'm a poet, consultant in the spaces of business development and marketing. But above all else, I am here to share with you some interesting stories. And I will start by giving us five ABCDs and E's of Catalysing Initiative. I say, and I love saying, facts tell, but stories sell. People love stories. When you give them stories, they connect easily and they easily remember them. So the first A for Catalysing Initiative, because in order for us as Christians to move the needle, to move and do and deliver our purpose and deliver our goals or key aspirations, we need to have initiative. We must have that self-starting kind of attitude in order for us to be able to deliver and deliver on our targets and goals. So the first A stands for agility. Agility. We ought to be agile people when we're delivering our promises on our targets, on our intentions, so that we are able to stand out and be those people that are dependable and are reliable. So how do you deliver in an agile way? I'll start by a quote that was said by Steve Jobs. I love quotes so much. My second book, Inspired by 40, is a book of quotes. Actually, it's the award-winning book by the African Christian Authors Book Awards, based in Nairobi, in Kenya, where I won for Christian Living category. So I love quotes so much because they're easy to remember, easy to connect with. So Steve Jobs says, and I quote, "Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice." I repeat, Steve Jobs says, "Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice." So initiative is key. So agility. How do we deliver agility and how do we do it? I also quote a proverb. I think this was said by Solomon. He says, it's in Proverbs 25:11. He says, "Timely advice is as lovely as golden apples in a silver basket." I repeat that. Proverbs 25:11 says, "Timely advice is as lovely as golden apples in a silver basket." I will tell you a story of Pele, the soccer legend or football legend. My. This guy was agile. When he got onto the football pitch, he did his thing. Yeah. Allow me to use that phrase. Quite dramatic. But when I read and look at his profile, his bio, I'm like, wow. Is it true that this guy could do this? Is it true that the president of Brazil declared him as a national treasure? What? How does that even happen? Being declared a national treasure. Wait a minute. Is that even possible? Anyhow, I'll tell you this. Pele was a nickname. His actual name is Edson Arantes do Nascimento, formerly known as Pele. Born on 23rd of October 1940 in Brazil. Now, wait a minute for his CV here. He's known and considered the world over as the greatest footballers of all time. He is the world's greatest footballer of all time. In 1999, the year, he was awarded by FIFA, Player of the Century, in addition to being recognized by International Olympics Committee as the Athlete of the Century. Man, this guy played football. When he got on the football pitch, the way he did things. But before I move into that story, one of Pele's inspiring quotes, he says, success is not an accident. It is hard work, perseverance, learning, studying, sacrifice, and most of all, love of what you are doing or learning to do. I repeat, Pele said in his own words that success is not an accident. It's hard work, persevering, learning, studying, sacrifice, and most of all, love of what you are learning or love of what you are doing or learning to do. Man, I'll unpack it for you. What are the things that distinguished Pele? When this guy got the ball, it's as if he was deeply immersed with the ball. He played with flair. He delivered exquisite, quality, outstanding, exhilarating, exciting, inspirational, and thrill-laced football. When he got onto that ball and held it, it's as if his heartbeat skipped and stopped and was synchronized with the ball. He would play. There was a style called Jinga in Brazil. That style was one where these guys would get into soccer and play. And once they played, my friend, they played with what we call akawowo in Luganda. They played with flair and flavor. And Pele did this so profoundly that his heartbeat, he felt like was floating an inch off the ground. It is clear that what he did when he played was one that no one could ever do. He scored a number of goals in his game because playing football for him was his why. When he drew out energy, it flew and flowed like a river. When he had his mind on the game, he would do it. And he would draw his teammates in. He became the standout person because of his identity. Yes? And I quote Peter Graber, the renowned American film producer and business executive or entrepreneur, said, and I quote, truth is a point of view, but authenticity can't be faked. Pele was authentic. When he got onto the football pitch, he was agile. When he played, people would say, wow, wow, and wow. Ladies and gentlemen, in your initiative, if you want to catalyze it as a Christian, giving the example of the sports personality, is you have to deliver with agility. You have to stretch yourself out and be able to execute and deliver with agility like Pele did it. How do we do it like Pele? First of all, love what you do. Have that passion. Do it like you're doing it for God, not for man, because everything you touch should have your footprint. No one should do it like you, because you are distinct, fearfully and wonderfully made, as Psalms 139 says, a human being created fearfully and wonderfully, one distinct person. When you execute and do it, the world should say it is different. As I said, Pele was declared a national treasure by the president at the time. That meant no football club could hire him and could not play for the football clubs because he was a national treasure. He was playing for Brazil, his country. And he becomes a legend. When he played, the world would say, man, when a game had Pele in it playing in his time, people would say, wow. Number 2, the second item, B, of how you can catalyze your initiative is bundled. You can never succeed alone. And I'll start this with a signature quote that was said by Isaac Newton. I love this quote so much. I've said it a number of times. Those of you who know Isaac Newton, the inventor who discovered gravity, he also invented the laws of motion, or discovered the laws of motion. And it's also arguably said that he discovered calculus at one point. What did he say? And I quote, that if at all I have seen far, it's because I have stood on the shoulders of giants. I'll repeat that. If at all I've stood far, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. What did he mean by that quote? You can never succeed alone. You have to collaborate. So the B standard for bundled. Bundle yourself with people who share the same vision with you, share the same philosophy with you, same ideologies with you, or same aspirations with you, because you can't succeed alone. You have to partner. And the story I'll tell you is of Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Those of you who have heard of them, these are the founders and founders of Google. Larry Page and Serge Ibrahim were university students at Stanford University. They were friends at the time, and they were IT, of course, students. And one of the things that was so onerous or demanding for them was to do research. Their professors would send them and tell them, go and do research. So in their time, they had to go scavenge and look for information in the libraries, and they had to read books and books and books. So Larry Page told Serge Ibrahim, okay, wait a minute. Suppose it were easy. As I said, ideas just come in the moment. Suppose it were easy for us to search for all this information in these libraries by just clicking one button on a computer, and we get all this information. Because there are books that were like 300 pages, 500 pages, and you're looking for information on page maybe 260, meaning you have to flip through all those pages, 10 books, 30 books. So it becomes so painful. So they said, we are going to do research about search engines. So Larry Page and Serge Ibrahim at Stanford University came up with a story and told themselves, we are going to do research about search engines. So they did the research, and their thesis or dissertation was about search engines. It was so profoundly interesting that the professor told them, well, guys, this could be revolutionary. Larry Page and Serge Ibrahim said, we're going to take the notch higher. After their research, they fundraised $1 million to start a company. And guess what? They started Google. Today, Google is, I think, the fourth or fifth most capitalized and richest company under the sun, with a capitalization of in excess of about $2.9 billion. And why they do that is because they got libraries to put together information in one place on the internet. And once they put it together, they are paid by methods called pay-per-click, because they get adverts on Google, and they have different properties. Google is now a big multi-billion company because they have many other properties, emails, their search engine, of course, plus a number of other properties they have that rake in big money. They have Google Meets for meetings. They have Google Sheets. They have the Google Drive docs. They have Google Sites. Man, what did they do? Serge Ibrahim, Larry Page bundled themselves together, and they did it, and they executed and delivered. The third point on how to catalyze our initiative is the C, which I call care. You need to care for yourself. You need to care for yourself. Why? Because when you care for yourself, caring is great, because sharing is caring. You need to share your ideas, but also care for yourself. It is said Ronaldo, why at his age, being a great football, arguably one of the finest in our times, is because he cares for himself. He said that this guy sleeps like a fetus. Yes, you heard me. The best way to sleep without nightmares, to sleep, is to sleep like a fetus. You know that shape of a fetus sleeping in a womb. And his bed sheets are color white. And the lighting in his room is handled at a very particular level. And I will tell you, the food the man eats is high in fiber. There are certain things he cannot even do. He cannot even hang out in a particular time in season. He has to care for himself, because when he's delivering his value on the pitch at his age, he practices and rehearses 3 extra hours after the regular time for the practice and the rehearsals. He cares for himself. No wonder the guy is that great at his age. Yes, you know, he's been always contending with Messi for the Ballon d'Or. That award for the best footballer in the world. So he cares for himself. He takes a lot of care for himself. The way he plays, if you see the height that he jumps, it's not a coincidence. The man takes care of himself. The way he does, the barber he has, even the hair has to be trimmed in a particular way. Precision. So as a person who is catalyzing initiative, you need to care for yourself, care for your vision, care for your mindset. You're only as good as what you eat. If you're paying attention to gossip and listening to gossip, gossip will detoxify you. Even there's a scripture in the Bible that says anger is a cancer to the bone. You have to care for yourself. Negative energy, throw away negative energy. Surround yourself with the right atmosphere. Condition yourself to perform as you catalyze your initiative. The fourth one is D, and this is D squared. I said drive and dexterosity. I repeat, D is D squared, drive and dexterosity. I'll give you a story of a person who had drive and had dexterosity, and that man is Leonardo da Vinci. He was one of the greatest man. I don't know how this guy would do it. In my book, Out of the Crowd, I coined the phrase called the specialist generalist. This guy was an artist, he was a surgeon, he was a doctor, he was an engineer, he was an inventor, as well as a musician and a poet. How did this guy do all these things? Man, I have no clue. I have no idea. But one thing that profoundly made Leonardo da Vinci very unique is his artistic prose. He perfected the artistic drawing style called sfumato. In his time in Italy, he was a great painter, an artist, and when he drew, his paintings looked almost alive. And sfumato was a technique very profound. Those of you who know or heard about his exploits, he painted a painting of the Last Supper of Jesus Christ and the Last Supper, of course, which had a number of controversies. But his most famous painting was the Mona Lisa smile, the Mona Lisa, that lady who was smiling. It is said when someone would look at that painting, one perspective they would see that she's smiling, one she would be almost like crying. I'm told the replica was auctioned in the year 2020, and it raised about $300 million. The replica, not the original. That guy. No, not the replica. The replica raised, I think, about $10 million, but the Mona Lisa itself, yes, was in Paris in 2021. 2021 was put in a museum and priced, and it would raise about over $800 million. Water, paint, and a canvas, raising that much, this guy had drive. One thing that characterized his drive and dexterosity is because of his time. He was born out of wedlock. It is said his father rejected him because he was not recognized. His father was, I think, one of the nobles of the time, and there was a lot of social stratification at the time. So there was a divide. So he was not recognized by his father. And he had a lot of drive and an urge to prove himself that he was worth something much more bigger than the social structures and the systems would do. So he became an inventor, did a lot of things, and then the leaders of Florence in Italy at the time sought out after him because of his art and because of his inventions and because of his drawings, and he marked himself in that place of significance. And because of that, his dexterosity and his ideas enabled him take a seat. Allow me just quote him, because he made a quote, and he made this quote that I will refer to, that he says, but before I quote Da Vinci, I'll quote Shakespeare. I love Shakespeare. He said, "We know not what we are, but not what we may be," meaning that when you know yourself, you can always do something that is profoundly impacting. So back to Leonardo da Vinci and what he did. I quote him, and he said in his own words that Da Vinci said, and I quote again, sorry for the disruption. He said, and I quote, that people who see limitations are only people who may not know what they could become. The lords of Florence at the time stood out and said, this guy has done a lot for us because of his artistic authenticity, originality, and excellence. Everything the guy touched was great. And he said again, I have been impressed with the urgency of doing. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. Being willing is not enough. We must do. He was a man of action. Dexterity with drive combined with action will give you excellence. Leonardo da Vinci today remembered. Great engineer, great surgeon, great artist, and above all, a great inventor. I'll move to the last item, point, which is E, and that is also E squared, which is elegant execution. Elegant execution. This one, I'll tell you my favorite. I'll quote his signature statements. He always said, I will float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. And his name is Muhammad Ali. Man, this guy was a poet. It is accredited to him that was not just only a boxing legend, but was a poet. Actually, hip-hop has been recognized that he was one of the founding fathers of hip-hop because of his lyrics and his narrative of poetry. He is accredited to have narrated the shortest poem, and the shortest poem is called Me We. This guy was great. Not many people know that he was not just a boxing legend, but was also so profound and a great musician. Actually, he was that good that he earned himself 2 Grammy Award nominations. He was that good at music. 2 Grammy Award nominations. Of course, he didn't win, but he won in the ring. What this guy did in the ring, if I should use that phrase, he would train. He said, and I quote in his own words, that he would only train after he started feeling pain, because he would punish himself at training. He said, and I quote, I hated training with all my life, because I said I would rather suffer the pain at training, but enjoy the victory at triumph. This guy is a legend in his own right, and he was elegantly an executor. Muhammad Ali, he changed his name, of course. He was formerly called Cassius Clay, and I can say he's the grandmaster of catalyzing initiative. He was a pace setter, a record breaker, a trend setter at boxing. Ladies and gentlemen, Muhammad Ali was celebrated, not in words. He would go rant and rave. He had a big mouth. He would go rant and rave. He said, I'm the world's greatest, I'm the baddest. And actually, at his fight, he had some big time fights. One of them was the Thriller in Manila, the fight with Joe Frazier. It caught a lot of attention. Yes, but then his biggest fight was the bout with George Foreman in Zaire, now Democratic Republic of Congo, called the Rambo in the Jungle. But before I even go into those fights, I'll just give you some background about who he is and what he accomplished. He had one of the biggest notable autobiographies, nominated twice for the Grammy Awards for his songs, and this was celebrated as the sportsman of the 20th century, and started training boxing at 12 years. At 18 years of age, he won a gold medal in the light heavyweight in the 1960 Summer Olympics. This set his stage for him to venture into professional boxing, and he won the world's heavyweight boxing title in 1964 from Sonny Liston at the age of 22 only. Muhammad Ali battled and defeated 21 boxers for the world heavyweight title. His 14 unified title fights remain unbroken for 35 years. Muhammad Ali is the only boxer to be recognized as the world's greatest heavyweight boxer of all time, celebrated by Ring Magazine as Fighter of the Year 6 times. He was also ranked as the greatest athlete of the 20th century by Sports Illustrated and the Sports Personality of the Century by BBC, as well as the 3rd greatest athlete of the 20th century by ESPN Sports Century. What a CV. Man, this guy battled the biggest guys. It is said his signature fight was the Rambo of the Jungle, was the greatest sports event of the 20th century because it was watched by over 1 billion people worldwide. It set a massive record in the sports world. He said, and I quote again, I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit, suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion. Man, this guy did it. He catalyzed initiative. And why is initiative? Through training. He affirmed to himself, I'm the world greatest. He initiated to his mind that I am the world greatest boxer. And not just in words, in action. He confessed, because confession is possession. I will quote again what he said. He would go out and rant and rave, and he said, I am the greatest. I say that even before I knew I was. Man, his tongue became his signature, and he did mighty exploit. He also said, and I quote, that impossible is just a big word thrown around by small men who find it easier to live in the world they are given than to explore the power they have to change it. Impossible is not a fact. It's an opinion. Impossible is not a declaration. It's a dare. Impossible is potential. Impossible is temporary. Impossible is nothing. Muhammad Ali, I can go on and on. When he was fighting that war in Zaire, he said, and he had a big mouth and would run and rave. He said that I will go and punch you and your lights will go off like you've seen darkness. Of course, he was saying these rants and raves to his opponent at that time in the Rambo in the jungle in Congo, DRC. Now, man, what Muhammad Ali did, I've just read you his CV, and he said, and again I quote as I wind up, only a man knows what it is like to be defeated. Only a man who knows what it is like to be defeated can reach down to the bottom of his soul and come up with the extra ounce of power it takes to win when the match is even. He said, draw in. This guy would catalyze initiative. For the lack of a better word, his execution was elegant. When he got in the ring, he would float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. His bobbing, bouncing kind of demeanor and physique. When he did that in the ring, he would execute. And elegantly he did. I would say he is the initiative initiator. That's why I call him in my book, Out of the Crowd, chapter number 5, How to Catalyze Initiative. I would say this guy did it. This guy, Muhammad Ali, executed. This guy was very profound when he delivered. I would like to wind up by giving you one bonus, not among the ABC D's and E's, but my bonus is about how you connect with your audience. It is very key. All the great people did it. All the people I mentioned today in initiative did it, because at the end of the day, when you connect with your audience, it always works. I love Maya Angelou, one of my favorite poets. She says, and I quote, that people will forget what you say or do, but they will never forget how you make them feel. Those of you who know her, of course, won a number of accolades. Recently, I saw the US government recognized her and put her face on the quarter, the US quarter, the currency. Very powerful poet, good books. She's written like I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and a number of other poems she's done and books she's put across. How do you make people feel when you speak, when you engage, when you deal with them? At the end of the day, the way you connect, because connection is quite key. Many people have other C's. They have content, they have context, but the biggest thing is, how do you connect with your audience? How do you connect with the world? How do you relate with it? Are you standing for good, or are you standing for selfishness? So that bonus on the connection matters. I'll just give you a recap. How to catalyze initiative as a Christian. Agility, the story of Pele, stands for A. The B stands for bundled. How Larry Page and Sergey Brin came together and bundled their ideas, started Google, and today one of the wealthiest companies under the sun. And then the C stands for care. We talked about Ronaldo, how he cares for himself and how he does it, but cares for others also. If you look at him playing, he gives assists. Yes. Of course, I'm not looking at the current situation of the team he's playing for. I won't mention it. but by and large, he's still a standout, profound, impactful sportsman. Then Drive and Dexterosity, the D Squared, the story of Leonardo da Vinci, the legendary specialist journalist. And then the last E, which is E Squared, Elegant Execution, and the story of Muhammad Ali and how he executed so profoundly. It is also said that when he was in the ring, he was reciting poetry. That's what was giving him rhythm. Those of you who are poets, I'm a poet as well. We know the poetic devices like rhymes, meter, pentameter, and rhythm, because poetry gives you rhythm. So it is said he would narrate that to himself as he was counting his steps, bouncing around the ring. And his signature statement, Muhammad Ali said, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. It's been a great pleasure being with you today, sharing with you how to catalyze your initiative as a Christian and the top 5 items. Once you put them together, I've shared with you the content and context, people who did so, and have won and have come out profoundly impactful. I would say it is great having you listening in. Until next time, bye. My name is Richard Mwebesa, the author of Out of the Crowd, award-winning author of Out of the Crowd, inspired by 40 and yet up to come, an illustrative anthology of poems called Thistle of the Nile. Thank you. Until next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Vine Radio Podcast. Hope you are inspired. Now get out there and be fruitful.